Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Well, it's great to be with everybody today. This date, December 3rd, 2021, as we continue our ongoing coverage of the civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia. The fighting continues. As I had mentioned in previous episodes, I had reviewed the situation as the Tigrayan Defense Forces had militarily defeated the forces of the Abiy regime located near Dec, and then followed by Kombolcha, and then meeting up with Oromo Liberation Army allies within the vicinity of Kamise, and then they proceeded to continue to head south, seizing control of Shia Robot, and then finally we're right there at the plateau of Debre Sina, and operating very close to Debre Burhan. And as I had discussed several weeks back, that two things could possibly occur, and of course, one of those things has actually occurred. Of course, the big issue was, could we see a rapid advance by the Tigrayan Defense Forces if and when Debre Sina and the plateau and the major terrain features just to the west of Debre Sina were seized? Could we see a rapid advance by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, seizing Debre Burhan, and then obviously on the road to Addis Ababa, and then quite possibly be at the gates of Addis Ababa in conjunction with the Oromo Liberation Army itself as well? So that was one scenario that could have played out. The other scenario was that the defensive cohesion of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces and its Amhara regional allies would have mounted a fairly successful defensive operation to prevent that rapid advance from occurring. And what has really, at this point, I don't want to say changed the outcome and the course of the conflict, but it has created more of a static conflict as we currently view the war, and that was the introduction of the military charity by the Republic of Turkey, by the state of Turkey, by the People's Liberation Army of China, and the resources and personnel resources of the despotic regime of Eritrea. So, for instance, if we look at the resources that were handed over by Turkey, we were looking at close to 1/5 of the entire defense budget of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces. Almost $100 million in equipment were given to Ethiopia, to the Abiy loyalists, by the regime of Erdogan. And again, that entailed the deployment of drones and other equipment as well. So again, as the Tigrayan Defense Forces progressed towards the center of gravity, towards the center of power, some of the larger air bases in the former state of Ethiopia, such as Harar Meta Airport, where we believe drones are currently operating. We have seen the deployment of United Arab Emirates assets to include drones, again based at this air base near Addis Ababa. We have seen continued supplies from, again, the People's Liberation Army, the People's Republic of China, indirectly supporting Addis Ababa and the Abiy loyalist government by providing more drones. We have even seen the Iranians provide drones to the regime of Abiy Ahmed. So again, all this military charity, this military donations that have taken place have obviously made an impact on the rapid closure to the course of the conflict, and that's where we're sitting right now. Obviously, we heard some incredibly robust statements coming from some other sources that the Ethiopian National Defense Forces were now rolling into Kambolcha and Dese, and that simply has not happened as of yet. And we're starting to see a more static conflict start to evolve, at least within the next short period of time. And that would really be the next 30, 60, 90 days. Again, obviously it appears the Tigrayan Defense Forces are reanalyzing its strategy in terms of what its capabilities are. It is looking at the deployment of these assets, such as the drones that have quite frankly taken a toll on the Tigrayan Defense Forces. Again, these drones, if you were to look at some of the gun camera footage, some of the optic footage that was released during the Azeri Armenian conflict, you can see exactly what I'm referring to in terms of how deadly these drones can be. Now, that ultimately was what has prevented the Tigrayan Defense Forces ultimately from taking that rapid advance near Shir Robot and then moving south and meeting up with Oromo Liberation Army units just outside of Addis Ababa, and quite frankly, quite possibly entering Addis Ababa. And again, that is not through any tenacity or competence, unfortunately, if you are an Abiy loyalist supporter in the Ethiopian National Defense Forces. Again, they have proven themselves to be a relatively incompetent fighting force that is more importantly incompetently led. And again, we can harken back to some of the first days of the conflict when all of the Tigray region was occupied, or much of the Tigray region was occupied by a joint force of the Eritrean military and the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, and as we know how that ended up turning out, with the Ethiopian National Defense Forces being evicted from the Tigray region in this rather significant counteroffensive into the Amhara region by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. And those incompetent battlefield commanders saw military defeat after military defeat. They saw it within the vicinity of Korum, Alamata, Kobo, Weldia, Wachale, Mercer, Haik, Lalibela, Gashina, Dese, Kombolcha, Kamise, and the list really goes on. And I don't have to sit here and rattle off the names of all the towns and battlefield locales in which the Ethiopian National Defense Forces suffered fairly catastrophic defeats over the course of this conflict, with tens of thousands of Ethiopian prisoners of war still in prisoners of war camps located in and around the Tigray region, specifically near Mekelle. But again, right now, because of that international charity in the form of drones and other assets, this conflict right now, again, is going to take more of a static turn. The best case scenario for the Ethiopian National Defense Forces and the Abiy loyalists is a protracted, I say again, a protracted civil war that could last years, and in all probability, unfortunately for all the innocent people involved in this conflict, will in fact last years. Again, it is not just the Tigray region. It is not just the Tigrayan Defense Forces who are fighting the Abiy loyalist-led army. You have significant portions of the Oromia region that are in fact supporting and helping the Tigrayan Defense Forces and are deeply disenfranchised with the Abiy Ahmed-led government that is heavily backed by Isaias Afwerki. But that right now would be the best case for the Ethiopian National Defense Forces. Now, that is better than what the situation looked like just a few weeks ago, as we were looking for quite possibly a rapid advance by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, by the Oromo Liberation Army, directly onto Addis Ababa. And fortunately for the Abiy administration, for the Prosperity Party, because of that military charity in the form of drones and other military assets, that was, at least for the short time, has been prevented. But the fighting will continue. The Oromo Liberation Army is still very active and still controls large sections of Oromia. The Tigrayan Defense Forces are still very active, still have a tremendous military force at their disposal, and are, in all probability, are going to continue to use that military force to fight the Abiy loyalist regime located in Addis Ababa, also known as Finfinne. But that is where the conflict stands today. Again, the situation, as you can see here on my map, is fairly factual. Again, Kombolcha is still controlled by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. Dec is still controlled by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. Again, there were some advances made by the Ethiopian National Defense Forces near Shir Robert, near Gashina, and some other areas as well. But if we look back to just 90 days ago, where the Tigrayan Defense Forces were operating south of Weldia near Wachali and Hike, and had not yet seized Dec and Kombolcha, the initiative, quite frankly, is still held by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. And again, just strictly speaking from a analytical military viewpoint. There's no bias. There's just this analytical view of what is happening within the course of the conflict. And until I must specify, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces are able to be led by competent battlefield commanders, and also have the ability to train and equip its forces in a manner that prepares them for ongoing operations in these areas. We're probably not going to see continued advances by the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, in all probability, at least until the Tigrayan Defense Forces decide upon itself to launch another operation. Where that's going to take place, currently we're unsure. But when that does, obviously, you could see territory start to change hands again. But that is where the conflict sits at this moment. We're going to continue to monitor the situation. There is not a rapid advance by the Ethiopian National Defense Forces and its Amhara militias. Again, it has sustained catastrophic losses, and it continues to receive catastrophic losses in its ongoing combat operations. Now, with that being said, at the same time, these drones are appearing to be becoming a fairly significant nuisance for the Tigrayan Defense Forces, especially as they got closer and closer to the center of power and the center of gravity for the Abiy Ahmed regime, which is closer to Finfinne or Addis Ababa. But again, we're going to continue to monitor the situation and report. Again, we are simply reporting the facts on the ground and what is actually happening. One other issue to note, it would appear that additional indiscriminate killings of individuals in the Oromia region by paramilitary forces loyal to the Abiy regime continue. It would appear that if any town is, at least in appearance, not 100% loyal to the regime of Abiy Ahmed, that that town is going to become subject to a fairly intense military kinetic operation. And we've seen that in a variety of areas now. In areas in which there is not heavy fighting going on. But again, the Abiy regime, the Prosperity Party regime, continues to target individuals who do not overtly support the government at this point. And that is absolutely occurring. We continue to see people from the Tigray region who live in areas outside of the Tigray region, such as Addis Ababa, being placed in concentration camps and being placed in detention facilities for no charge other than being from the Tigray region. And we're also seeing this within the scope of the Oromia region as well, with individuals allegedly supporting the Oromo Liberation Army being either summarily executed or being placed into long-term detention facilities. But again, we're going to continue to monitor the situation and report. I hope everybody has a great day. More to come very soon.